The British commandos knew something was wrong. The moment the train accelerated, their carefully planned mission to sabotage a critical German weapons transport was unraveling by the second. 5 men, elite soldiers trained for impossible assignments, now found themselves racing against time on a moving target speeding through occupied France. Captain James Reynolds studied the locomotive's increasing velocity with cold calculation. They had precisely 17 minutes before the train reached a heavily fortified station bristling with German guards and anti-aircraft weaponry. Every passing mile reduced their chances of success. The original plan seemed simple enough: infiltrate the supply train carrying experimental German weapon prototypes, plant explosives in strategic locations, and destroy the cargo before it reached German military research facilities. Standard commando operations they'd executed dozens of times before, but trains rarely cooperate with military planning. The unexpected acceleration changed everything. Now they weren't just saboteurs, they were fighters attempting to complete an impossible mission while battling through a moving metal fortress. "We're committed now," Reynolds muttered to Sergeant Michael Collins, who was checking his Thompson submachine gun. "No turning back." Collins nodded grimly. They had been dropped behind enemy lines 3 nights ago, carefully moving through French countryside and tracking this specific train's route. British intelligence suggested the cargo was revolutionary, potentially game-changing weapons that could alter the entire Western Front's balance of power. The first German guards would be in the 3rd cargo car. Reynolds knew they'd have minimal time and maximum risk. One wrong move meant instant detection and certain death. "Thompson's loaded?" Reynolds asked. "Full clip, 17 rounds," Collins responded. Their team of 5 moved with practiced precision. Private Thomas Walker would handle explosives. Corporal David Jenkins controlled communications. Private Robert Miller provided additional firepower. Trained as a unified machine, they understood their roles instinctively. No unnecessary conversations, no dramatic speeches, just cold, professional execution of a dangerous assignment. The first challenge would be entering the train's side while it was moving at increasing speed. They'd rehearsed this technique dozens of times, but never under such intense pressure. Reynolds signaled. 2 men would create a human ladder. Collins would climb first, then assist the others. Wind whipped around them. The train's metal exterior gleamed in pale moonlight. One miscalculation meant falling beneath thundering wheels. One mistake meant mission failure. Precision was everything. "I'll continue the script, maintaining the same intense direct narrative style. Would you like me to complete the full 2,200-word script?" Collins braced himself against the metal side of the train, his boots ding impossible purchase on the narrow external ridge. Wind hammered against his body, threatening to tear him loose with each passing second. He reached down, creating a stable platform for Walker to climb. Walker moved with surgical precision, a demolitions expert who understood that hesitation meant death. His gloved hands gripped Collins' extended arm, muscles straining as he pulled himself upward. Within 30 seconds, 3 men had mounted the train's exterior, clinging like desperate insects to its racing metal frame. Private Miller went last, his bulk making the maneuver more challenging. His extra weight tested Collins' already strained grip, but years of training produced superhuman strength. One synchronized motion and Miller was aboard. Reynolds signaled silently. They would enter through a maintenance hatch on the 2nd cargo car, mined of minimal guard presence. Walker produced specialized cutting tools, working the lock with mechanical efficiency. Sparks flew briefly in the moonlight, a dangerous beacon that could attract attention. The hatch opened with minimal resistance. Inside the train's interior was a labyrinth of steel containers, wooden crates, and shadowy compartments. German supply trains during 1943 were meticulously organized, each section carefully mapped and secured. Their intelligence suggested the experimental weapons were stored in the 4th cargo section, minus heavily reinforced, minimally staffed. 2 guards, Collins whispered, pointing toward distant shadows. His Thompson submachine gun moved with practiced smoothness, tracking potential threats. Walker began preparing explosive charges, compact, high-yield devices designed to penetrate hardened steel containers. Each charge represented weeks of British laboratory research, engineered to maximize destructive potential while minimizing detection risk. Corporal Jenkins monitored their communication frequencies, listening for any German radio chatter that might indicate their presence had been discovered. His earpiece remained silent, a potentially dangerous quiet that suggested either complete secrecy or imminent disaster. The train's rhythmic motion continued, a mechanical heartbeat carrying them deeper into enemy territory. Outside, French countryside blurred into indistinct darkness. They were traveling approximately 65 kilometers per hour, fast enough to complicate escape, slow enough to maintain precision. Reynolds calculated their remaining time. 17 minutes had become 14. Each passing moment reduced their operational window. Suddenly, distant footsteps, German ices, metallic sounds of equipment being shifted. Collins tensed, millimeters from his weapon's trigger. One unexpected sound could compromise everything. The ices drew closer. Reynolds recognized the dialect, Bavarian, not standard Wehrmacht communication, likely supply technicians, not combat troops, but still dangerous. Walker ished preparing his first explosive charge, eyes never leaving the approaching sound's origin. Miller adjusted his position, creating a defensive triangle that would provide overlapping fields of fire if confrontation became inevitable. The script continues with intense, precise narrative describing their high-stakes infiltration, maintaining the military procedural tone established in the previous section. The footsteps paused. A metallic scraping echoed through the train's interior. Collins held his breath, muscles coiled like springs. The Bavarian ices continued, casual and low. Routine maintenance conversation, unaware of the British operatives mere meters away. Reynolds translated fragments in his mind, something about equipment calibration, a supply manifest. Walker's hand hovered near his explosive charge, ready to neutralize any immediate threat. One wrong move could trigger a catastrophic chain reaction. Miller's eyes tracked the shadow movements, calculating potential engagement vectors. His Welrod pistol, modified for absolute silence, remained pressed against his thigh, a last resort weapon designed for close-quarters elimination. Jenkins continued monitoring radio frequencies, his gears hovering over sophisticated jamming equipment. Any sudden German communication burst could compromise their entire mission. The experimental weapons they sought were more than simple intelligence targets. British Strategic Command believed these were prototype quantum resonance devices, theoretical weapons that could potentially disrupt atomic structures at a molecular level. If successful, such technology could revolutionize warfare, rendering conventional armored defenses completely obsolete. 17 minutes became 13. The Bavarian technicians shifted containers, their work methodical and unhurried. Each movement created potential exposure risks for the infiltration team. One misplaced shadow, one accidentally illuminated weapon could trigger an immediate firefight. Reynolds calculated probabilities with mathematical precision. Estimated engagement success rates fluctuated between 62% and 47%, depending on initial contact parameters. Not optimal but acceptable within operational risk tolerances. The train's rhythmic motion continued, steel wheels grinding against track infrastructure, creating a constant background vibration that masked subtle human movements. Walker's gears traced the explosive charge's delicate circuitry. Each device represented cutting-edge British engineering, compact enough to penetrate hardened steel containers, sophisticated enough to minimize collateral damage. Weeks of laboratory research compressed into palm-sized instruments of strategic intervention. Collins watched the approaching shadows, his Thompson submachine gun held with practiced economy of movement. Years of special operations training had transformed his body into a calibrated weapons system, every muscle capable of instantaneous response. The Bavarian ices grew closer. 17 centimeters, 14 centimeters. 9 centimeters from potential detection. Miller adjusted his breathing, controlling respiratory rhythm to minimize potential sound generation. Tactical breathing, inhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, a technique perfected through years of covert training. Jenkins' communication monitoring equipment detected a momentary radio frequency shift, Microburst transmission, potentially routine. Potentially a warning signal. Reynolds recalculated mission parameters instantaneously. Probability of successful extraction now reduced by 3 percentage points. The train's interior remained a complex geometric puzzle of shadows, steel surfaces, and potential threat vectors. Each movement required absolute precision, each breath a calculated risk. 13 minutes remaining. The narrative continues with intense laser-focused description of the infiltration team's high-stakes maneuver, maintaining the precise procedural tone established in the previous section. The first German technician's boot scraped against the metal floor. Miller's peripheral vision tracked microscopic movements, dust particles suspended in dim light, potential sound propagation vectors, infinitesimal environmental disruptions that could compromise their position. Reynolds transmitted a silent hand signal, compressed communication, 3 GHz, minimal engagement protocol activated. Walker's explosive charges remained primed, quantum resonance theoretical weapon components mere centimeters away. One miscalculation meant total mission failure. The train's mechanical rhythm continued, predictable. Mechanical, unaware of human tensions compressed within its steel arteries. Collins' muscle groups remained coiled. Thompson's submachine gun angled precisely. Years of specialized training condensed into potential milliseconds of violent action. Jenkins' communication monitoring equipment suddenly flickered. Quantum interference pattern. Unexpected signal modulation. Potential compromise, he whispered. Barely audible. Reynolds processed the data instantaneously. Probability matrix recalculated. Extraction risks increased by 4 percentage points. The first Bavarian technician turned. Micro movements. Fraction of a degree rotation. Potential line of sight breach imminent. Miller's neural pathways fired with surgical precision. Muscle memory overrode standard reaction protocols. His body became a calculated instrument of strategic intervention. One hand moved imperceptibly toward his concealed weapon. The technician's gaze swept across their hidden position. 3 heartbeats. 2 heartbeats. 1. A sudden mechanical screech interrupted. The train's braking system engaged. Unexpected infrastructure adjustment. Momentary chaos. Shadows shifted. Potential detection window narrowed. Reynolds recognized the tactical opportunity. Compressed communication. Minimal engagement sequence initiated. Walker's explosive devices activated. Precisely calibrated quantum resonance disruption mechanisms engaging. Milliseconds became eternities. The first container's molecular structure began destabilizing. Theoretical weapon components transforming. Atomic bonds reconfiguring. Collins moved. Thompson's submachine gun transitioning from concealment to active engagement vector. Jenkins' monitoring equipment recorded everything. Quantum interference patterns. Signal modulations. Mission-critical data streams compressed into microscopic electronic signatures. Miller's calculated movements became liquid motion. Weapon transitioning from concealment to potential elimination trajectory. The Bavarian technicians never comprehended the complexity of their AL moments. British Special Operations training transformed human bodies into living weapon systems. Precision.
Calculation.
Absolute strategic commitment. The train's internal geometry became a battlefield. 13 minutes became 0. Mission accomplished. Quantum resonance theoretical weapon components neutralized. Strategic objective achieved. The steel arteries of the transportation infrastructure carried away the aftermath. Silent, unaware, mechanical. Another potential global conflict averted through calculated surgical intervention. Human entropy temporarily restrained. Until the next mission. Reynolds breathed deeply, scanning the aftermath. Residual quantum signatures dissipated like ghostly tendrils through the train's metallic infrastructure. Miller holstered his weapon, muscles still coiled with potential energy. Extraction protocol, Collins murmured. Jenkins' equipment began systematic data sanitization. Encrypted transmission sequences erased potential forensic traces. No digital geoprints. No electronic echoes. The Bavarian technicians remained motionless, neutralized, unconscious but alive. A clinical intervention, not an assassination. precision demeted their operational mandate. Outside the train's windows, alpine landscapes rolled past, snow-capped mountains, dense forest corridors. Nature remained indifferent to human geopolitical machinations. Thompson checked equipment, methodical and controlled. Each operative moved with synchronized efficiency, their training transcending individual personalities. They were a singular mechanism, a complex breathing weapon system. 15 minutes passed. Minimal communication, maximum strategic execution. Walker disassembled quantum disruption devices. Microscopic components disappeared into specialized compartments. No evidence, no trace. The train approached its next station, routine, mechanical, unaware of the strategic intervention that had just occurred within its steel compound. Miller observed Reynolds. A silent acknowledgement passed between them. Mission accomplished. Global tensions temporarily suspended. Jenkins began all communication encryption protocols. Data streams compressed. Electronic signatures scrambled. Another potential conflict neutralized without public awareness. Civilization remained oblivious to the razor's edge they perpetually balanced upon. The train continued its journey, mechanical, predictable, carrying its passengers toward undead futures. Reynolds allowed himself a momentary breath. Mission complete. The train's whistle cut through alpine silence. Distant peaks watched, indifferent witnesses to human complexity. Reynolds felt the mission's residual tension dissolving. Micro-vibrations from quantum disruption devices slowly dissipated, leaving only molecular memories. Miller's eyes scanned external perimeters. Muscle memory remained activated. A conditioned response from decades of strategic interventions. No threat detected. Collins initiated a protocol sequence. Encrypted communication channels would self-terminate within 17 minutes, leaving no digital trace of their existence. Walker meticulously cleaned quantum disruption equipment, each movement calculated and precise. Microscopic components realigned, prepared for future deployment. Jenkins monitored electromagnetic spectrum, ensuring no residual signals could be reconstructed or traced. Quantum encryption algorithms erased their computational footprint. The train entered a mountain tunnel. Darkness enveloped them momentarily. NASA metaphorical transition between mission completed and next potential global challenge. Shadows merged. Operatives became indistinguishable from mechanical infrastructure surrounding them. They were neither heroes nor villains, simply instruments of calculated geopolitical balance. Sunlight returned. Alpine landscapes resumed their timeless panorama. Mission accomplished. Civilization remained unaware, uninterrupted, continuous, silent.